Okay, so when we think about who is responsible for that infertility, about half of the causes are due to female factors. I've listed some of the most common female factors here, and then when we look at this is a couples problem often, and so that a third of the time it's due to the male partner, and then about 17% of the time, or 1/6 of the time, it's due to both parties have some factor in their infertility. So I'm going to go over a lot about the development of just this whole ovulatory cycle, because it's really the key to understanding infertility. And so what happens here is at the beginning of your menstrual cycle, at the base of your brain is the gland called the hypothalamus, and this hypothalamus actually secretes this peptide. This peptide is called GnRH. Can anybody tell me how many amino acids there are in GnRH? It's 10. It's a decapeptide. And this amino acid comes out and comes to the level of the pituitary and actually binds to the receptors there and helps to produce the production of the gonadotropins LH and FSH. LH is short for luteinizing hormone, FSH is short for follicle stimulating hormone. It's these hormones that come out about every 90 minutes out of your brain that helps to stimulate the ovaries to develop an egg. And we see this egg develop in the ovary at the level of your pelvic organs here. And over this period of time of about 2 weeks, you develop this egg, and then you call forth an LH surge to help it ovulate. So the next is, what's very interesting is this is the hormone fluctuations in a normal menstrual cycle. You might say, oh, it looks like a cartoon drawing. And so actually, this is drawn by one of my residents. In the second year, I have all my residents with me, still doing this at Stanford, but this is actually a resident from Louisville. And so one of the things that I do is I make them memorize the menstrual cycle. So I give them a blank sheet of paper, and then they have to reproduce all of the different hormones that fluctuate. Now, I know Blair Toller did this when he was a resident. Steve did this when he was a resident. And this is to illustrate this one factor, and that is, it's only during these 3 or 4 days here in the early part of the menstrual cycle where FSH is greater than LH. And this is where we actually select the follicle. In every other place, the purple line here is greater than the orange line. And that's what keeps the ovary in a kind of quiescent state and causes local atresia of the oocytes that normally happen. Because in the ovary is very dynamic. I mean, women are born with about 1 million eggs in their ovary. And then when they go to puberty, there's about 300,000 oocytes. And then you usually lose anywhere from 500 to 1,000 eggs every month. Whether you're on birth control pills, whether you're just pregnant, you lose these eggs continually. Most of them are eggs that never come to any type of clinical significance. They're just in this pool that are being lost all the time. But when there is a critical amount of FSH, it actually calls forth a set of 2 or 3 eggs for that month. And those are the eggs that mature. When you're doing ultrasounds in follicular monitoring, when we see those eggs and those fluid-filled cysts, those are the developing eggs for that month. But all during the other parts of the month, when LH is greater than FSH, the eggs are being suppressed and they just die off. So there's this continual loss, and it's only right here where we catch an egg to develop in that 3 days. And we get follicle selection. The egg develops in a fluid-filled cyst that we call a follicle. The fluid increases the diameter of this fluid-filled cyst, and when it's about 20 millimeters in diameter, it calls forth its own ovulation. It gives the signals to go ahead and give a positive LH surge that causes ovulation. After you ovulate, the ovary seals over and forms what we call a corpus luteum. It's the corpus luteum that makes estrogen and progesterone for about a period of about 2 weeks. And if you don't conceive in that month, the corpus luteum dies. And that's because the GnRH's stimulation that keeps the corpus luteum going is being withdrawn, and pulses of GnRH decrease to only 2 pulses per day. and that's what causes the corpus luteum to die. When the corpus luteum dies, the LH and FSH levels are low, estradiol and progesterone fall, there's no support to the endometrium, and then you bleed. And after you bleed, gives us a signal that LH then stays suppressed, FSH rises, and just again for those 3 or 4 days, that's where you call forth another follicle for the next month. So as I mentioned here, the corpus luteum is what produces estrogen and progesterone. The lifespan of the corpus luteum is only 2 weeks because the brain starts to withdraw support. And it's only when you're pregnant, if you happen to ovulate, there's sperm in the reproductive tract and you get pregnant, it's the pregnancy that goes ahead and starts making human chorionic gonadotropin, which rescues the corpus luteum. It's because HCG looks very similar to LH. And in fact, they're so similar that they all bind to the same receptor. So when HCG is produced from the pregnancy, it takes over the stimulation of the corpus luteum and it prevents regression. But if you don't have an HCG source, the progesterone and estradiol levels decrease, there's no support to the lining, and then you get your period.